Welcome csc200. This is ex5 states, and we're going to build a new database, and we're going to add two tables to it, a states table, and then we're going to add a cities table, and we're going to put them together because they're going to be related, and it will be an example of a one-to-many relationship because there's only one state with many cities. One city can't be in many states, so it'll be a one-to-many relationship, and we're going to build this from scratch, sort of. I'll have some text for you so you can use. And one thing I just want to point out is that when you come into Python Anywhere and you go to your files and you go into your databases directory, you're not going to see this. First of all, you're not going to see that. But what you are going to see is a directory over here called ex5 states cities. And in this particular directory, I just wanted to show you how I did this because I put it in everybody's directory. So everybody will have a new directory called state cities because it's a folder full of files, which I'll show you. But I'll just do this real quick just to show you what I did. I'm just going to copy this really quick. You don't have to do this, just pointing this out. You don't have to do this. But what I did do in everybody's Python Anywhere account is I uploaded a zip file because I can't upload a folder. And then I went into the bash console. I opened up a bash console, which again is different than your MySQL console. It's a little bit different. It looks different when it starts. And what I do in here is I just do unzip because this is the way they unzip it in here. You can't unzip it in your files. And I just did this, and then it unzips it. And then I think I can exit out of here, and then I'll close it, and I'll go back to where I was. And you can see here's the directory, and you're going to now see this directory. I'm going to close up this or delete this Mac OS 10. I don't need that. And then I'm going to delete this because I don't need the zip anymore. So I'll delete that. And this is what you're going to see. So you're going to see this when you come into your directory. And I just wanted to point this out because this is getting a little crowded with a bunch of files in here, and I'd rather have everything together in one directory. So they don't show you your directory in here as a list. They just show directories over here and files here. So this is a directory that's in databases right now. So if you click on here, what you're going to see is there's going to be two text files. Well, actually three. There's going to be a cities text file that you're going to use when you create your cities table. There's going to be a states text file that you're going to use when you create your states table. And then there's two working code. And I made them for you so you could use them. So when you're working on your states initially, use that one. And then when you start working on your cities, you can use the other one. Now, if they crossed over, that's fine. And then finally, when you make your console output, you're going to paste everything into this file. So I have all these here. And what I'm going to do to start is I'm just going to take a look at this, and I'll open this in a new tab. So I'll control click or right click and say open link in new tab. And there's the text I got together for you. And it's not all set up so you can create a table. You're going to have to do that. And then if I go back here, there's also your working code for that you're going to put in there as well. And these are empty, so you can start working in here. Your output is empty. Remember, that's where you're going to put your console text when you're done. So you're going to paste it in that text file. But I'll open up this working code right now. And I'll keep a couple tabs open. So this is my SQL, and this is going to be empty. It just has a couple little comments in here for instructions. And this is your text file that you have open. And then what you could do is create a new database. So we have these things all ready to go, and you could leave these open. So I have three tabs open in Python Anywhere. I have this text file, and then I'll close this up once we use this, but I'll keep it open for now. And then we're going to use this more once we start writing queries. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to go to databases, and I'm going to create a database. And I'm going to use the same method that I used for presidents. And again, we had the history lesson with presidents. Now we're going to have geography lesson with states. And we're just going to make a new database. And just like we used a lowercase presidents for this and then an uppercase presidents for the table, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to call it states. Now we are going to have cities and states, but I'm just going to call it states. So you just have to go down here and we'll use lowercase, just like we did here, lowercase, and call it states, and that's all you have to do. And it should be created. And then once you see your states database here, you could click on it and it'll open a console. So it'll take you out of your dashboard that you're kind of working in here. But that way I still have my text file open. I still have my working code file open. I have that all ready to go because this is going to now open my console. So I'm going to go do this. And this is what it looks like when it starts. And if I say show tables, there's no tables there because we didn't create any. So we have to put tables in there, and we're going to create a states table first, and we're going to use a capital S when we do that. So what we're going to do is start creating it here in our working code. But before we do that, let's look here. So we can keep this open, and I'm just going to copy this initially because this is actually going to be our columns. We're going to have order ID. If you see this here, we have order ID, and they go in order of how the states were brought into the Union. So they start with Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and so on. So that's the order of them, so that its order ID is going to be their ID, and just like the president's. And then there's going to be state name, which you could see is like a string. And then I even put an abbreviation that we can use when we do a join, so it'll just look better that we have abbreviation. So they're in there. The year established, that's the 1787. Then there's a size in square miles, and then there's population, which you could see there's like 982,000 in Delaware, there's 12 million population in Pennsylvania, so we're going to look at some of those values later, but for now, these are the columns that we're creating. So I could copy this, and I'm going to go here, and I'll just put them here for now. But again, if you forget what it's like to create a table, make sure you go to W3 Schools. You can open up this. This is always a good reference to go to. And I'll go to my tutorials for SQL, and I'll look for Create Table. And down here, here's how we create a table. And I could copy this. It's not cheating. So I'll go down here and I'll copy this and I'll paste that in. Now, we're going to create a table called states. So I could put that in right now. And then we're going to have order ID. So I'm just going to copy this from here and say order ID. And it is going to be an int. And I like to use capital int. It's also going to be a primary key. So we want to put the primary key in there. We're not going to auto increment a number because we already have order IDs. So we're just going to leave it as an int because that's what it is. And we don't have to put a length on it. And we're going to indicate it that it's the primary key. And remember, you could use primary key below here in parentheses, but we're going to put it right there. So that's all we need for order ID. And then we're going to do state, and I'll put state here, and that could be varchar, and it's using the lowercase varchar. I guess that's okay. And then abbreviation, which I just have ABR, and we can use 2 for that because states will only have 2 letters. And then we're going to have year established, which I'll just copy that. And notice I'm doing everything lowercase, and that could be an int in case we had to subtract something, or how many years has it been around. If we ever had to do math with it, it's good to keep it as an int. And then we have 2 more. We have size, which is an int, and I could just copy these. And I'll do size, which is in square miles, but that doesn't matter right now. And then my last one is going to be pop for population. And remember, we don't need a comma here, but we are finishing off with a parentheses. That's finishing off that parentheses and the semicolon. And again, it doesn't matter if you have a space here or not, but I'll leave it there like that. So I'm going to save this. Remember, do all your queries and all your code in here if you can, because this is where I'm going to see it. So this is going to create the table. So I'm just going to double check everything. Even if I want to look at this and just make sure I have order ID, I have state, I have abbreviation, I have year established, I have size, and I have pop. So that's what I'm going to be building a table out of. So we're just building the table. We're not populating it yet. We're just building it, and we should be ready to go. So I'm going to copy this, and I did save it here so that I have everything saved so far. So I'm going to copy this. And we're going to create our first table. Remember, last time we used source, and we basically ran SQL code, but we're just kind of copying and pasting SQL code to build this. I'm going to go back to my console and paste this in and hit enter. And I have an error. So that's okay. We'll check out what our error is. Use near, let's check out our error. Oh, I have an extra comma in here. And I look at my second line of my code, it's line 3 here, and you can see I have a comma here. So I have to get rid of that because there's no comma in there. So that's helpful, helped fix my error. So there's no comma in there. So I'll highlight that, and I'll copy it again, and I'll just do it again. And that's fine. And this time I feel confident. And there we go. So it made my table. And if you want to say show tables just to see that it's there, there it is. There's my states table. And again, if you screwed something up, if you looked at this and you're like, oh, I misspelled state or anything like that, you could just drop your table. There's nothing wrong with saying drop table, and I think it's states. You could certainly drop it and then show tables, and you'll see you have no tables. And then if you want to add a table again, you have it in your working code. So here's my working code, and this time I'll do it. I know I have it right this time because I already had an error, so I'll go back here, and now I'll add my table again, and then I can even show tables. And there I have my states table. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to populate our states table. And to do that, we have all this stuff here. I worked all this up in Excel, and I'm serious. I didn't just go get this somewhere. I found all kinds of tables of states and cities online, and I put them in Excel, and I had to go through and delete things, and I added things. So I put a lot of work into just getting these together, if that helps or not. But that way, at least I know what I'm dealing with here. And we're just going to take this stuff, and you can highlight all this again. So I'm going to highlight all this, and I'm just going to copy it. And then when I paste it here, I'm going to paste it, I guess, right over this. And you can see it's all color-coded. Now, I don't need this thing anymore, so I could close up this, because I think we're done with this for now. So I'll close up that tab. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use Insert Into. And if you remember how to do Insert Into, or if you don't remember how to do Insert Into, you could go look for Insert Into. And here's Insert Into. And I'll just go take a look at it. And there it is. And we have all the values already. So all we need really is this part. I'm just going to copy this just to look at it. But you can see what happens. This is just one record, but we're going to do a whole bunch of records. We're going to do Insert Into the table name, and then all the things that are here. Matter of fact, I don't even know if I need to copy that. I'll just go back here, and it's going to be Insert Into, and it's going to be states. And then what I'm going to do is I'll do a space, and I'll do parentheses. And remember, these are all the things that are going in there. And I could put this on a different line like that, because that'll look nicer. And I just want to know that I'm putting order ID, state, abbreviation, year established, size, and pop. We're not doing any foreign keys or anything like that here. And we're not doing any auto increment, so we could put everything in. And then I'm going to finish that off. And then I'm going to say values. And then the way values work, if you look at it here, there's just a space, and then all the values are in a parentheses. At least all the column values are in a parentheses. Now, this is just one, and it ends with a semicolon, so we have a whole bunch. We have 50 states, and then all of them will have a comma except for the last one. So let's make sure that that's the case. This is all set up. I even have all the commas in for you, and if you go down to the end, there's even a semicolon at the end, and there's Hawaii. So everything looks okay. That's all you need to do here is just make sure you do Insert Into States and make sure that, it's called states just like that. And make sure you have the same number. Make sure there's order ID, make sure there's state, make sure there's abbreviation, make sure there's year established, size, and pop. If you miss any of these, you're going to get an error. If it doesn't match what's here and you skipped one of these, you're going to get an error. So we should be able to put this in now. We're going to copy this whole thing, and I'll even save it. So if you ever screw it up, you could drop the table, create the table, and put these back in. So I'm going to highlight everything from Insert Into down to the bottom of my semicolon. And I said to put it below here, but that's fine. I just did it right after. So I'm going to copy this. And now I'm going to insert all these states into my table. So I'll paste that, and I'll hit Enter. And it says Records 50. So that looks good. That's a good sign. And if I want to check it out, I could do Select All. And you could type it here, or I just might want to put it here just in case I need to use it again. I'll go up here and do my Select All. I'll do it in between here. That way I don't mess up spelling select or anything like that. Select all from, and it's going to be states. I'll even copy states so I don't mess that up. Select all from states. So now whenever I need to see my states, I'm just going to do that. And let's take a look at our states. And there's our states. Oh, I didn't hit enter. So let me hit enter. Now there's our state. There's our states, order ID, state, abbreviation, year established, size, population, and we're in good shape. We have our first table of our database in there. We have our 50 rows, and we did that all ourselves. And what we're going to do next is we're going to do some queries. So what I'm going to do is I'll take a break here. So this will just be kind of setting up your first table. And then for part 2, we're going to do queries for states. And then after that, we're going to work on your cities.